Matthew, how would you grade Sonoda's Red Bull debut weekend as a whole when you look at practice, qualifying, and then the race?
Like C minus, D plus, honestly. And it sucks because it's like you throw him into this position very. I mean, I think they should have done it at the start of the year, and then you're throwing him in a week or two before the race goes off. I know it's his home Grand Prix, whatever, so a lot of excitement. But I mean, he was sixth in practice, the first one. We're like, yeah, okay, let's go, Yuki. Show the haters. And then he was 18th. You're like, okay, Yuki, not sure what you're doing here. Then he was ninth, and it's like, okay, a little bit better, not as better as you should. And then he qualifies, doesn't even get out of Q2, and you're like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be, isn't it? And then he finishes 12th, no points. And it's like, what the heck? Like, is this? I think that viral moment for I know the Drives to Survive fans, when Toto Wolff was telling Red Bull and Christian Horner that your car sucks. Checo's complaining about it. I think we're showing that Max Verstappen is actually driving a really crappy car, and he's just so damn good at what he does that everyone else who's in that second seat is just horrific. Because I don't know, you could put Ricardo in there, like one of the commenters mentioned. You could bring back Sebastian Vettel in his prime. I don't think anyone put Valtteri Bottas in the damn car. I don't think anyone's going to be doing half as good as Max Verstappen. Obviously, Yuki does not score any points. And now, I mean, you look at the standings here too, right? There's some notable guys. You have Ali Behrman, Nico Hulkenberg, Esteban Ocon, the Haas's, right? Lance Stroll and Isaac Hadjar, who is still in the other Red Bull car. They all have something in common, and they are ahead of both drivers who have been in the Red Bull seat, Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda. That says a lot about that second seat. I don't know if it's cursed or something, but I think the car is actually just really fourth or fifth best, and Max is just so dang good that you can't tell. But if you put Liam Lawson and Yuki and throw Max back in the RB, I still think we'd have the same results. I think Max might be sixth or seventh on pace, but I think the other guys would still be way in the back. I just think the car is way too difficult for these guys to drive. I just think Max is one of those guys who can see air move before it happens. He's got that it factor. I think guys like Lewis Hamilton had, guys like in NASCAR. You have guys like Dale Earnhardt, you guys like Richard Petty. Those guys had an it factor. I think Max has it, but I don't think any other Red Bull driver since maybe Sebastian Vettel has had that same factor, and it shows by terrible results in the constructor standings. So sorry for that long rant, but the C plus, C minus maybe is the best I'd give Yuki. I think we expected more out of him because he's been waiting so long, and it just didn't happen, especially at his home Grand Prix. I'm sure he'll score points, but I don't know. Are they going to – it's becoming a meme now. They asked Isaac, well, would you take the opportunity? Was he supposed to say no? Like, come on, guys. Like, I know we're all in media. Why are you asking questions like that to Isaac Hadjar? So that's how I feel. Sorry for the rant. I will be quiet now and let Tanner take over this question.
So I think that it would behoove many people, including everybody within Red Bull's camp, to look at the positives of this race weekend for Yuki Tsunoda. So, yes, he did start 14th. Not great, but that is still better than anything Liam Lawson has done in that car to this point. That's a plus. Second plus, he passed two cars, which in a race where passing was profoundly difficult, I'd say that's a plus. Him not getting points, yeah, it's a negative. But again, we discussed in the very first question of this segment that there was only one pass amongst the cars in the points all race, and it was Lewis Hamilton passing Isaac Hadjar. So, again, you've got to look at the context of the race that we had rather than what a regular GP looks like. So with all of that in mind, I'm giving Yuki Tsunoda a B-. I think that though he didn't have the weekend I'm sure he wanted, I think that being able to pass in this Red Bull 21 car is extremely impressive because Max really hasn't done much of that himself to this point. So him being able to actually make passes on other drivers rather than being 2 seconds off the pace of his teammate is an infinite upgrade over Lawson, which, again, I'm really trying hard not to, beat Lawson up too much. I think he was put in an unfair position. But at the end of the day, that's who we have him to compare to. Now, with that in mind, I think that the Red Bull is not a good car. And I think that the reason it's not a good car is because they cater too much to Max Verstappen. The reason this car is bad is because of Max Verstappen and his endless desire for perfection in the car. And he likes a car that swings really hard with the front as soon as he needs to swing it, and the rear kind of, fishtails along with it. He likes a loose race car for those in the NASCAR world. And when you have a car like that, you need a driver that fits the driving style for it. And obviously, Max very clearly does. But in the world of Formula One, a really big issue is passing. And it has been like that for really as long as I can remember. And we have a car that they've built that if it gets into dirty air at all, it's not worth anything. And it kind of Max Verstappen's performance last night kind of reminded me a lot of what William Byron did today in the NASCAR Cup Series race at Darlington. As soon as William Byron got into any form of turbulent air, his car sandbagged tremendously. You would see his 4 or 5 second gap go down to 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second in like 7 laps. It was completely absurd. And I think had Max Verstappen run into like lap traffic or got a really bad beat on a pit stop and got behind somebody, he wasn't going to go anywhere. And I think that Yuki being able to actually create overtakes with this car actually shows a lot of growth for the car itself and can kind of show Max like maybe some spots where he can improve with it when he's in traffic, because with all due respect, he was never going to catch Lando in Australia, and he wasn't really making any ground up when he was in China either. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's really unfortunate for Yuki that he didn't get the points and the finish that he wanted, but I think if you look at it contextually, he didn't have a bad race. It was just he had a poor starting spot and nobody else could pass, but he passed twice, and I think that says something. And it's unfortunate that that's going to get lost in the shuffle because Hadjar had a better qualifying session and thus a better finish. So, yeah, again, it's an unfortunate situation, but I think that the RB21 is a very, very imperfect car that will, for Yuki's sake, hopefully get better as time goes on with his input. But right now, I feel like if Max Verstappen had started third and not been able to take the lead off the grid, then he probably does not win that race or lead a single lap. I think he finishes like 6th or 7th.
Yeah, it was an interesting debut weekend for Yuki Tsunoda at Red Bull. After free practice one, he wasn't that far off Max, and we're like, okay, maybe he was the right driver to be Max Verstappen's teammate, because that was extremely encouraging. Then FP2, I kind of, dismissed what happened there because, we had multiple stoppages during that session, so you didn't really have many opportunities to get a clean lap. So although he was down the charts on that one, didn't really look too much into that. FP3, a little bit better, but yeah, nothing that, you want to hang your hat on. And then qualifying, we know what happened there. Hey, at least he got out of Q1. Liam Lawson can't say that in his 2-race stint with Red Bull. So getting out of Q1 was a win, a small victory within itself. And obviously, if you're driving a Red Bull car, you want to get into Q3. Unfortunately, Yuki wasn't able to do that. And if you perfectly said, Tanner, it was very hard to pass out there. So Yuki should at least be glad that he moved forward instead of, regressing throughout the day and moving backwards. So that's a small victory as well. But kind of like I said with Liam Lawson, I'm going to say the same thing with Yuki Tsunoda. Red Bull, please give him time in this car. Please give him, a handful of races at the very least before you make another driver swap. And we, we have the triple header, coming up. Just finished Japan. Then we're going to go to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Hopefully, Yuki will do better at Bahrain this coming weekend, and then Saudi Arabia after that. And if Yuki doesn't score points, in all 3 of these races, I hope Red Bull doesn't be like, yep, we're gonna move him back to Racing Bulls, and we're gonna move up Isaac Hadjar and give him a go, because at that point it just gets very cartoonish and absolutely silly if we're gonna be playing musical chairs all season long in that second Red Bull car. I think they need to be in it for the long haul, at least the rest of the season with Yuki, just to give him an opportunity to learn the car. And like you said, Tan, I don't think he had a terribly bad race, but given all things considered, because if he had qualified in the top 10, I'm pretty sure he would finish in the points given how clean of a race he ran during the Japanese Grand Prix. But since he was stuck back there was only so much that he could do, since basically where they qualified is where they finished for the most part. So there wasn't really much Yuki Tsunoda could do. But the one person that I'm watching is, Helmut Marko. And I saw the comments he made about Yuki on motorsport.com. He was asked by them, like, what do you think of Yuki's debut race? And so, to my surprise, he actually said it was fine. He said minus the mistake in qualifying, where he didn't get a good lap in Q2. He said he thought it was fine. So I guess, that's a good thing that Helmut Marko is, saying that instead of, being like, oh, it was horrible. We expect more from him. But I hopefully Red Bull will be more understanding that, you need to give your driver time to get up to speed with the car. If Red Bull does make a, unprecedented second driver change in the middle of the season, at least give Yuki till the summer break, at least give him that long before you decide to put Isaac Hadjar or whoever knows in that second car. Yeah, I think you just need to give these drivers time, to see what they can do in the car. But then again, they made a Max Verstappen car, not an actual car that both drivers can actually handle. So it's going to be very hard to find someone who can drive that car exactly like Max Verstappen. So that's another thing we'll be following throughout the season. See if Yuki Tsunoda can live up, to the standard of, being a Red Bull F1 driver and trying to be Max Verstappen teammates, which seems to be one of the most difficult jobs in all of motorsports.